Have you ever gotten to the point where you're just like, you're so fed up with like the false reality that you're just willing to be like, you know what? If you think 1 + 1 = 10, have it. Narcissists develop their own inner monologue. They develop their own sense of a false reality. It's a play that they've exhibited in their mind of what they want to create. If you're anywhere in the ballpark of logic, you're thinking, there's this insanity. But at a certain point, there's a piece that you can give yourself and say, you know what? I can't control what they think.
Your blended family has a 100% chance of success when you do it God's way. We're Blended Kingdom Families, and we want to provide biblical resources to heal and restore families with a message of hope for the next generation.
Hey guys, welcome back to the BKF podcast, continuing a series in co-parenting. And if you missed the last few weeks, please go back and watch. We've really covered a lot of great material. And before we dive in, make sure that you like, share,
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you're new to BKF, understand that we have an amazing resource called Blended and Redeemed. It's a book we wrote several years ago. It is a really baseline for a lot of things that we talk about.
Yeah.
I'd encourage you to go back and grab that. And catch up.
Yeah.
So today, ask yourself a question. Are you co-parenting with a narcissist? Maybe a worse question is, are you yourself a narcissist? Because some of the things we're going to talk about today, you may put a lot of blame, but then you also may see yourself in that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting as we do coaching and as therapists, we counsel a lot of people, and there are people that have been diagnosed with narcissism that will come and they feel, hey, I've been diagnosed as a narcissist, and talking with these people and talking, how they do their marriage and, in blended families with co-parenting relationships, like, it can be very, very tough. And I just want to give a definition of narcissism. So it's really a self-centered personality style characterized as having an excessive preoccupation with oneself and one's own needs, often at the expense of others. And then there's also narcissistic personality disorder, which is NPD. And we've talked about this on previous episodes, especially in our Let's Therapy podcast. So go back and check those out. But NPD is where the narcissist tendency has become pathological, leading to functional impairment and psychosocial disability.
So when I hear that, I think a few different things. I think that all of us could probably admit at one point in our life where we exhibited narcissistic personality characteristics. We've become all about us.
Yes. Well, humans are egocentric in themselves.
100%.
Kids very much are.
Very much so.
And in our humanity, we're like that.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that results in a dysfunctional family environment. Maybe we were raised in a dysfunctional family. Also, it relates to maybe the way our expectations were of how somebody was going to treat us, and that didn't go the way we thought.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, we started turning our attention from outward to inward. And we started looking at ways that we found joy in hurting other people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what narcissists do, is they make it all about themselves, and the intensity at which it inflames and inflames other people charges them to do more.
Yeah.
And so we want to look at it and say, hey, one, how do we co-parent with a narcissist? I mean, this is an interaction that you're somewhat forced to have. We do this in a way that says, hey, this is best for our children, but let's be honest. It's like living in hell. It's awful.
Yeah.
Every interaction is incredibly awful. And so how do we approach doing that in co-parenting in a way that you can survive?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's different. It's so different from being married to a narcissist, right? Because when you're married to a narcissist, it's when there's especially that narcissistic abuse going on, it's like, do I leave or do I stay? What do I do? When you're co-parenting, I mean, y'all are already divorced, and they're not in your immediate life, so to speak. Like, they're not inside of your home. They're not in your everyday interactions, but it's through a relationship in which you have to parent a child together, which can be extremely difficult as well. And so, it can be incredibly challenging to co-parent with a narcissist, but it's important to focus on, a healthy environment for your child. And, what does that look like? What are some things that we can do, even if our co-parent who is the narcissist doesn't do? What can we do? And we talk about setting firm boundaries. Now, depending on what that is, they probably could care less, and may not abide by those.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of forced interaction because you have children, and it depends on the age of the children, and also kind of what that required interaction is. But I will say boundaries can be set very firmly.
Yeah.
And you can take a lot of the oxygen out of a narcissist by setting boundaries.
Sure.
So narcissists, they lack empathy. They don't have empathy and they don't understand boundaries.
Yeah.
They are all about themselves and whatever whim of whatever they want to do, they just want to do that. So it's critical to establish clear limits on acceptable behaviors. And really what I would look at in terms of co-parenting is accessibility. So we talked about a couple of podcasts ago, healthy things that you can do in co-parenting. Healthy things require healthy interactions.
Yeah.
You're not required to do these over-the-top things when you're dealing with a narcissistic person. I don't think that's a healthy way because they will look at it and say, I want this and I want more.
Yeah.
It really shocks me at the lack of responsibility co-parents have towards their children.
Yeah.
They will look at it and say, well, if you can do this, then I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's all about them. Setting boundaries and saying, hey, this is what I'm accepting. And if you don't abide by this will not be present.
Yeah.
And communication is a big part of that. We are too accessible.
Yeah.
Not just us. You are too accessible.
Yeah.
Everybody who's listening to this is too accessible. You have your phone on you 100% of the time, and at any whim, somebody can enter into your life and say something to you.
Sure.
Narcissists don't need that ability. You don't need to give them that ability. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can, set technology parameters that say this is how you're going to contact me. This is it.
Yeah.
And don't accept any other format.
Yeah, we were working with a couple not too long ago, and this was kind of their situation. And it was, hey, set clear boundaries of because you cannot communicate with us in a respectful, healthy way. We are going to communicate through this family app. And they went to their lawyers. They ended up having it put into papers and had to go through that process. But it really made the co-parent who was acting, had the narcissistic characteristics, it really made them squirm and they were not liking it. But at the end of the day, they ended up complying, and it helped alleviate some of the stress and anxiety from the couple that we were seeing. And so sometimes you have to put those parameters in to say, hey, if you cannot communicate or treat me treat me with niceness and not down, degrade me and call me name, whatever that is.
Yeah.
We're going to communicate this way where you have as little access to me as possible. And you're still communicating on behalf of your child, and you're doing the things that you can do to be proactive towards helping your children. But it's also putting a boundary around self and your marriage and the way in which they get to interact with you. And now through this app, they're being monitored for the language that they use and the things that they say, and it holds them accountable.
Well, and I think the other part of the setting boundaries is, we look at it and say that we're building up walls. Another part of setting boundaries is, and I think we see this a lot with narcissistic co-parenting, is the lack of respect they have for maybe your current spouse or things like that. So, and again, I'll go back to a coaching example. That one of the good stories that I remember is that an ex-spouse kind of came over to their house and just walked in their door.
Yeah.
Just walked in their new
house
with his new wife, completely disrespecting boundaries. And again, that's more of a narcissistic tendency. It's all about me. It's all about what I want. And so part of boundaries is saying my boundaries include my spouse. And if you don't include them, then you're not included. This is our boundary. So setting those clear boundaries is going to be so important, regardless of what type of communication that you're using. If it's text, if it's email, all those different things, you want to make sure that you have put some protections and you've communicated those. You can communicate those in a calm manner too.
Sure.
So let me say this. Narcissists love more gas in their tank, and the more they infuriate you, the more they feel like they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So calmness and disengagement are a big part of co-parenting with a narcissist.
Yeah.
Not easy. Not easy.
Not easy at all. Well, it's the disengagement and, instead of trying to reason with them, there is just sometimes there is no reasoning with a narcissist. There's just not. And I think this is where silence can speak volumes. So if you see that they're getting in like a struggle war or control war with you, that's where you disengage. Like you pull yourself out of the situation and you don't have to respond and again, fuel that fire or the gas that's in their tank or whatever. So disengaging from it altogether is a great weapon, so to speak, to do, like, as you're co-parenting, if they're continuing to like fight about a situation in the co-parenting, you have a co-parenting situation, continuing to fight about that or bring it up or just, circle back around it, that's where you say, hey, we've talked about this. This is what, what we decided on. This is what it's going to be. And, I'm not going to, entertain this any longer. And if they continue to bring it up, that's where you can put silence into play or, just continue to repeat yourself and say, I've said this before. I'll say it again. This is what we decided. We're not doing this anymore, whatever that is,
Yeah, I was reading something the other day and I thought, man, I'd love to get to this position. Have you ever gotten to the point where you're just like, you're so fed up with like the false reality that you're just willing to be like, you know what? If you think 1 + 1 = 10, have at it. And a lot of that, narcissists develop their own inner monologue. They develop their own sense of a false reality. It's a play that they've exhibited in their mind of what they want to create. And if you're anywhere in the ballpark of logic, you're thinking, there's this insanity. Like, how in the world do I interact with this? Or I know that, or how in the world was I ever married to this person? But at a certain point, there's a peace that you can give yourself and say, you know what? I can't control what they think. So this disengagement with your own perception of, I have to understand what they think, or because they're saying it, there must be some level of importance.
Yeah.
And that's where disengagement and your reliance upon, okay, I know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And again, I'll say it, if you want to believe 1 + 1 = 10, have at it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to let that affect my peace.
Well, and I will say too, going with that, like you were talking about, the narcissist will develop a story of their own about you or about a situation in their mind. And this is where documentation with a co-parent comes into play, because we deal with so many parents who are trying to protect their child, so to speak, from the narcissistic parent who is exhibiting toxic behaviors, and it's bleeding all over the child, right? Like, they're talking negatively about the parent, they're doing things and saying things that are unhealthy. And it's like, how do I protect my child from this? And we talk about getting the children into counseling. It's like, well, they don't want to do counseling, and on our order it says this or that, and these are very hard situations. One that we say, bathe the situation in your children in prayer, but to document everything, get those court-appointed apps that require you to put everything in there, the child's schedule, all of your documentation, your communication log, all of these things, so that, if you have to go to mediation, or if you have to see a parent facilitator, or if you have to go back to court, all of those things are in there. And seek out, guys, don't be afraid to seek out legal or professional advice and counsel and help. These people are trained and certified and licensed to be able to help you process through this. Even when you can't change the situation, there are things that you can learn and that you can put in your tool belt, so to speak, that can help you throughout this process. And as your children are with you, the things that you can teach them or that you can implement with them that can help them as they are, living with a narcissistic parent. And you're co-parenting with them.
Well, and so many people go through divorce and they skip over so many important things, and then they pay the price for it later.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the things that we talk about, which is really kind of interesting to me, is sometimes it's the first time people have heard of it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand my family wizard. They don't understand. If you're in a situation where you have young kids, I would tell you, if you went through a willy-nilly divorce and just got it done and you didn't put these things in there, go back to court. Do it. Because it's worth it in the long run to put rules in place that hold people accountable. And sometimes accountability is like the kryptonite to a narcissist. If you want to upset a narcissist, you use words like accountability. You use words like responsibility. You use words like, what does the future... These are things that are kryptonite to a narcissist. They don't want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
They have no desire to have their actions held in accountability.
Yeah.
So I love that you said document, but I also would say don't willy-nilly a divorce. If you need to get these things in place, go back and get them.
Absolutely. Building a good support system. We've talked about this before on our previous narcissist podcasts, on our Let's Therapy and on BKF. But having a great support system, you guys, this can be family, but it can also be, we always talk about godly counsel and mentorship. Like, get with people who can intercede and pray on your behalf, who can speak life into you, who can hold you accountable for, what you're doing in the season and how you're interacting. Get with people who are not afraid to tell you when you're wrong, or tell you like, hey, like that wasn't good, or hey, that was a great job. Get around people who can encourage you and uplift you as you're dealing with this narcissistic co-parent.
Yeah, I can't understate that power. I think that one of the things that if we have a saving grace in our own life is that we have a crew. We have a crew of people who love us and who pray for us, and that's just been a savior for us.
Yeah. Obviously we're therapists. We're big proponents of biblical counseling. Therapists can help you maintain a perspective in emotional well-being. Having a relationship with any narcissist, whether it's in your marriage, your parenting, your co-parenting, it can drain you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even physically can affect you. And so get with a therapist and someone that can help you deal with your emotional and mental well-being.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if we went too deep into this yet, but self-care is huge. And you're going to experience a battle with narcissists. They're going to gaslight you. They're going to blame you for everything. We are humans, and we are emotionally sensitive, especially people who are really trying to do it right way. But we have to be self-prepared for the battles that we fight. And physically, emotionally, we have to prepare ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, because I see this a lot. I see single moms who deal with abusive, narcissistic ex-spouses.
Yeah.
And their self-worth is down.
Yeah.
And so they've been pounded in a way that's like, I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good. And so this becomes their normal.
Yeah.
And I'd fair to say most of our audience has been in that situation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I would lastly say is focus on the children. You guys, remind yourself that the priority is loving them, providing them a stable environment, routine and structure. They may not be getting that from your narcissistic co-parent, but man, like what you do inside your home, again, God sees all of that, and he will honor your obedience to that. So remember that, despite what mud, so to speak, your narcissistic co-parent is throwing at you, or the strife that they're causing, keeping the main thing, which is one, God first. If you're married, your marriage second, but, making sure that your children are receiving the love and care and support and encouragement and stability that you can offer them, that you are giving them your best.
Yeah. If you've been attuned to this, then you're in it. When you co-parent with a narcissist, when you live your life with a narcissist, it becomes extraordinarily all-consuming. And so my encouragement to you is you have tools in your belt that can help.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can cure a narcissist. I don't know that that's even possible. We're going to continue our series next week on co-parenting.
Yeah, we have special guest. So one of our BKT ambassadors, Sydney, is going to be joining us. She is a college student, young adult, grew up in a blended family, and is going to give some great advice and feedback for healthy and non-healthy co-parenting, and really from a young adult's perspective of what co-parents can do to help kids in blended families. And so I'm excited for you guys to hear from her, because you're going to hear it from someone who's walked through it and been through it.
Yeah. Guys, tune in next week. It's going to be an absolutely incredible episode. Hope you're having a great day. Talk to you soon.
Be blessed in all that you do. Hey friends, so glad you were here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find more resources from Blended Kingdom Families at blendedkingdomfamilies.com. Join us again next time as we talk about more blended family topics. Be blessed in all that you do, and remember, nothing will be impossible with God.